Hey, folks, welcome back to another episode of the Straight to the Money podcast. I'm your host, Dylan Silver. As always, we're brought to you by Silver Property Ventures. And today on the show, we've got DFW's number one trap house buyer, the Ryan Jackson.
Number one, hold the trophy. Hold the trophy. Number
Hold
one.
Hold it.
Number one trap house buyer. Metro Texas number one trap house buyer. Denton's number one trap house buyer. Yeah, I buy trap houses. I put these on the back of envelopes, make sure they're sealed, and I know they got it from the Trap King. So what's up?
That's how it is, man. I'm in the Dominican Republic, and it is pretty darn good. I just feel healthy is really what it comes down to. We got massive avocados over here and tons of community, and I feel I live in a very beautiful area. If you look at specifically the apartment that I live in, it's unbelievable. I have no idea what this would cost if it was in DFW, but it would be a heck of a lot more than what I'm paying. I do actually have an idea. It'd probably be around $2,200 to $2,700 a month. Probably more than that, considering that this is the third floor and I have a 2-bedroom, 2-bathroom with a balcony, tile floors, granite countertops, all new appliances. But how's the trap house world? How's the trap house world, Ryan?
Well, today is September 2nd, 2025. The Fed has not announced an official rate cut, but the speculation is there that we might have a half point coming this month. The trap houses are still trapping. Market has slowed and has gone stalemate, and it's not a very fun place unless you built a portfolio of cash flowing assets, and then you're probably doing okay. So
it's true.
It's just a different game. It's just a different game right now. That's just really the best story for this is it's just a different game, and it feels the same, but it's not. It feels the same, but it's not. And I feel like that I'm not taking on as much risk. If you're familiar with the greed fear index, we got extreme fear right now. And then if you go back to 2021 when the rates were floored, we had extreme greed. So on the greed matrix right now, it's extremely fearful. And if you know anything about Warren Buffett, you got to strike when the fear is high, and you got to sell when the greed is high. Being a time like this, it's a time to buy if you can do it. There's houses that I'm passing on right now because I know it's a deal, but it's just there's too much risk, and I feel like I could get snake bit. 12% pressures are hitting a lot of my friends, unfortunately, fortunately, they're not impacting my business because I saw this thing coming. I can read charts, I can read markets, I can understand that when interest rates go up and go down and how that reacts. And then if the general public does not like the interest rate, they're going to go ahead and sit out. And that's what's happening right now is the general public of buyers is sitting out, or they're waiting for better rates or better seasons, because we feel like this real estate market is possibly at the top of the climb, on the roller coaster. You kind of feel like it's about to do this. And if you're right here and you're going right here, you're just going to sit and wait till you get to this point. And that's what's happening right now is we can see the free for all, but why buy? Because you're at the top of the free for all. And if you could speculate your purchase at the bottom of the free for all, you'll go ahead and buy it today, even though you're expecting this decline. And that's kind of where I'm at right now. I'm not a motivated buyer.
Yeah.
I've got a few that I'm motivated to sell. I'll be honest. So I'm a motivated seller right now in a few areas, and that's not a good position to be. And for the last 1 year, I feel like that I've conditioned myself that this market's going to be bumpy, and I've conditioned myself that buyers are not buying. I guess what I'm trying to say is I saw that window closing, so I started to shrink my business as it was shrinking, as the market was shrinking, I felt like. And to be honest with you, the only 12% pressure I have would be, guess what? The trap house on Loma Vista, the cat house. If you remember your acquisition, Drill and Silver, your acquisition that's on my books is still at 12%. I haven't made a single payment since I bought it, so it's ballooning. I've got a tenant in there paying $2,000 a month. And I got to pay the utilities, so it's about the equivalent of about $1,760 in rent. on a $75,000 purchase than a $30,000 rehab. So right now, if you're getting 1760 after you pay the bills on a $75,000 purchase, $30,000 rehab, I mean, that's the kind of business that I have to buy right now, is these little small cheap trap houses that I can still catch a decent appraisal on, still do the refi on them, and I have taken away the buyer from my business. I'm operating a business right now with 0 buyers, knowing in my head there's not a buyer. If there's no buyers, why would you do the deal? If there's no buyers, you don't do the deal. And that's why I stopped doing the deal. But however, if I can turn that into a rental or to an Airbnb or something that's going to give me recurring revenue, I don't need a buyer. I'm the buyer. I need an appraisal at that point. So that's kind of where I've positioned my business is, go back to 2021 when there was extreme greed. I was flipping and rehabbing between 12 and 17 properties at a time. General contracting mall, business, I'll be honest with you, it was loose like a Portland stripper. You know what I mean? My business was loose, and
That's loose.
I was bringing in money, throwing money, bringing in money, throwing money, bringing in money, throwing money, and it was a party. Everybody had money. Everybody was doing well, with the exception of COVID. And now you got to face the other side of the market, and this reminds me a lot of the Roaring Twenties. In fact, I've been kind of doing some internal dilemma in my head where it's like I need to go research the Roaring Twenties, because behind the Roaring Twenties we had the Great Depression of the 30s, and let's just say I feel like we did a really really good job of bringing back the Roaring Twenties, being low interest rates and everybody's investing and buying, and everybody's got to buy a cabin in Broken Bow. Everybody's got to buy a Smoky Mountains cabin because 3% is the rate. Everybody's buying secondary houses because rates are cheap, or they're upgrading and moving because they can work from home. So that storyline is over. It's 2025. It's been 4 or 5 years since all this mess happened, and I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna blame COVID. I'm gonna blame China for COVID, but I'm going to blame Jerome Powell for not reading the room better. I go back to 2021. We're signing for 3% investment loans, 3%, nuts, 3.12 actually, and 3.25. We signed for 4 of those in 2021, probably around February of 2021, lowest interest rates of all time. And that caused a feeding frenzy. Now, if you throw in a piece of meat into an aquarium where a bunch of piranhas are, they're just going to eat. That's what they do. Is you put it in front of them, they're going to eat it. And that's what they did. The government put these low interest rates in us to spark a boom, and they got the boom all right, but now it's the bust. And people are losing jobs. The money's running out. Job unemployment, I feel like, is starting to creep up. If we have a bad jobs report and a bad jobs report needs to get under control. If we can get inflation under control and a bad jobs report, they're going to cut rates. So, but you just don't want too much of a bad jobs report, because then you got a serious recession or even a depression on your hand. But right now I just feel like we're dealing with stagflation, and I feel like that we got to cut the rate to get things going. I've got a whole bunch of properties that are needing to be refied. I've got some that are negative cash flowing at a tune of $400 or $500 a month. $5,000 to $6,000 a year. If you're losing $5,000 to $6,000 a year on a property, you can only do that for so long. And pretty much, the reason why I did that is I felt like that if I did a 30-year DSCR, these rates might be falling. I'd be locked into a 5-year deal with a high rate. So I went ahead and did a high rate 20-year note instead of a 30-year. That way, when the rates fall, I can go into a DSCR with a 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 step down penalty. If I refi on a DSCR, I don't want those penalties, so I'm just kind of wait for the rate, and then I'll jump into a DSCR, and then at that point, I will get rid of some of these negative cash flows, and then hopefully they'll turn around and be positive cash flows. And I guess what I'm trying to say is, when money gets tight, you got bills to pay, you have to make a phone call, and that's your banker. He says, turn a card over, let's refi, or let's at a higher rate, but I'll get you some cash, go pay your bills. But now I'm stuck with this higher rate and this negative cash flowing asset, and I got to go get another cash flowing asset to offset this negative cash flowing asset because I took money out to pay my bills. So what I'm trying to say is, in this business, if you're good at it, you're floating on a sea of debt. And if your debt has assets to match it, or let's just say double your debt in assets, you got all that equity. you can pull some of that equity out to pay your bills. And of course, you don't always want to pull all your equity out of all your deals, because then you don't have any other last resorts, lifelines whenever you're out of cash. So here I am. I'm on your podcast. I'm Metro Texas #1 trap house buyer, and I have 0 call outs for not paying my bills. Nobody's trashing my name because I'm not paying my bills or doing bad business, which I'm seeing a lot of that on the Facebook boards and forums where people are going belly up and they're getting called out. Hey, where's my money? Where's my money? Where's my money? This guy's not paying his bills. I'm not being called out for that, but I can honestly look you in the eye, Dylan, and I can tell you right now, at the end of the year, I have a whole bunch of tax bills that I cannot pay at this very moment. I'm not going to be able to pay my taxes at the end of the year, property taxes, that is. Why? And the reason why is because inflation's high, CapEx is high. I got a lot of leaches. I got some negative cash flowing assets. I bought some assets that are negative cash flowing because I know the upside's good once the tenant gets out. I bought a few of those that I put in my portfolio that are kind of lemons, but they won't be a lemon in a year. I've got a few of those that I've got, but it's still negative draining on my cash flow, and it's taking away my abilities to pay my property taxes at the end of the year. So, why would Metro Texas #1 trap house buyer be on this podcast, be speaking at Texas Tuesday tonight, be speaking at Investor Fuel September 13th through the 15th, speaking at Wholesaling Live? I got Carlos Reyes coming to Texas Tuesday, and I'm sitting here on this. I don't know who all's listening, but I'm confessing to one of my really, really good friends, somebody that I would walk through hell with, Dylan Silver, right now, and I'm confessing to the whole world that I don't have the money. I don't have the money to pay my taxes at the end of the year. In other words, down goes the guru. Right? Down goes the Texas trap house king because he can't pay his taxes. Everybody look at him. That's not the answer. That's not what you're going to get. You're not going to get any bad pub on my name. And the reason why is because I have the ability to get capital when I need it. And the reason why I have that ability is because I take care of all my lenders. I have no problem showing off my personal financial statement with equities. I have no problem running from anything. So what's going to happen is I got all these expenses coming in at the end of the year. I'm going to be, let's just throw a delta of 50,000. I got a $50,000 delta. Well, I can go get it from Wall Street and go get it from IRAs, but Wall Street's kicking ass, so I don't really want to do that. IRA is going to cost me a penalty, so I'm not going to do that. All I got to do is pick up the phone and say, hey, got to pay some taxes. I need a loan, and I'm going to strap it to one of these properties as a second position, which, a lot of people don't like second positions. I get it. But, just pick and choose which one you want. These are the ones I'd like to consider putting your debt on. That way I can exit the deal or refinance the deal. But then I'll just make some payments on some debt. I'll get caught up. And then what'll end up happening is I'll exit a deal or I'll refinance a deal. That $50,000 in troubled debt that I took, I didn't go get it on a credit card at 27, 28%, like a lot of people. I'll go get it at about 12%, which is high. Rates are high right now, so it is what it is. Plus, the individual investor is gonna want a good paycheck to do it, which that's fine. So I'll borrow at 12%. I'll strap a second lien on the property. I'll pay all my taxes. My name stays good. Nobody's calling me out. Nobody's trashing my name because I didn't pay anything. And if I'm a little late on some taxes, they're due January 31st, to be honest. But if I want to claim them on this year's tax return, I need to get them paid by the end of the year. So I really need to get them paid by December 31st for my income tax purposes. And I'll get them paid. There will be no trashing in my name. The anxiety will kind of go down because I got the bills paid, but now I'm on the clock because I'm going to have the same troubles in a year. Well, that means I got to exit some deals. I got to fight some taxes. I got to improve some cash flows. I got to raise some rents. I got to go work because there might be an assignment, a contract that I might pick up, or even a fix and flip if it really, really makes sense, or a hotel. There's opportunities to make bricks of cash over the next 12 months. So I feel like I can do at least a handful of deals with some people to bring in some extra revenue so I can survive.
I want to pivot a bit here and ask you about some strategies that can cash flow pretty heavily. We're talking about fix and flip. There's a political van probably right by the apartment that's driving by with a megaphone blasting third world political speech. But I want to ask you about some of these cash flowing strategies. Airbnb, fix and flip, which is getting harder, new builds to sell, and then also ADUs. I was living out of an ADU on your ranch.
Yeah.
Of these strategies, if you're looking at them, and for people who may be looking at, well, what do I got to do to cash flow? Would you recommend to folks Airbnb?
If you're lazy and you don't have a handle on business, no, don't do Airbnb. But if you're very, very active and you do have a handle on business and you refuse to suck and you can take positive criticism or as negative criticism as positive criticism, and you can actually like try to work and try to hustle and try to do right by people, you can do right on Airbnb. There's a lot of people that do Airbnbs that drive their business into the ground. I was looking at, I got one house that I need to put into Airbnb in Carrollton. And I was looking at Carrollton properties on Airbnb, and there was one property that had 3 bookings since this year, or since last year, actually. It was 2024 and 2025. Three reviews. It only had 3 reviews for 2 years. And based on what I'm seeing a third-party management company defend all these negative comments. We'll send it to the owner. We'll send it to the owner. They got a third-party management company. If you're going to do Airbnb and you're going to start small, don't hire a management company. You got to do it yourself. You got to get in these trenches yourself. You got to take the 11 p.m. calls where they don't like their sheets or they're out of toilet paper. You're going to have to go over there and put the trash out, or take a dump trailer over there and pick up the trash, because nobody's going to do it. You're going to have to cut the grass or hire somebody. You're going to have to go over there and change the air filters. It's actually active income now and not passive income, per the IRS guidelines. So it's considered active and not passive. So you are very active in Airbnbs, and if you choose not to be active, you're going to get ran over. You're going to lose your Airbnb account, and the next thing you know, you got all these bills, all this furniture that you set up, and it all was a waste. So this is the best quote to summarize this. It's from Master Yoda: "Do or do not. There is no try."
Would you say that for folks who are looking at Airbnb and thinking about it, expect to see some big returns on it fairly quickly, or do they kind of have to ramp up, get the reviews, maybe even have another property on there? Does that help? I'm not super familiar with the space, not having owned an Airbnb myself, but knowing
Yeah.
yourself and other folks, how quickly can people get up to speed on Airbnb and start making,
Well,
maybe even a multiple of what their mortgage is on it?
Well, everybody wants a Gucci Airbnb. And when I mean Gucci, I'm talking pool, I'm talking trees, I'm talking forest, I'm talking 2-story, hot tub, multiple TVs, beautiful property. Everybody wants that kind of Airbnb, or at least that's in their head. That's the stigma, is you got to have super, super nice, high class stuff. Okay. Well, in 2021, that works because your interest rate's cheap. Everybody else's interest rate's cheap. So the economy's flooded with cash. So we buy and we rent nice things. Fast forward to 2025, Broken Bow Cabin is on sale. You can go rent a Broken Bow cabin right now, and it's cheaper to rent it than it is to buy it. The cabins are on sale. Nobody can sell them. Nobody wants to buy them. Disposable income's down, so not as many people are traveling. But that's not my forte. My forte is, they're trap houses. I rent out trap houses on Airbnb. So what kind of tenants do you get for trap house? You get people that think it's funny. You get college kids that like to throw parties. Adults that are confused about the Trap House brand, and they think it's the Vaughn family Trap House, the Vaughn family Trap, whatever, the Sound of Music family vacation house, and then they realize what it actually is, and then they want to cancel. So you run into some of that. Yeah, but I've got grandmas renting trap houses, and they're fine with it. It's just the brand, And of course, I got my goofy icons and my goofy graphics on the walls, this kind of stuff on canvases. I got the before and the before photos, and of course the after stands for itself. But to really answer your question, being that I'm working with trap houses at about an 8% rate, and if I get them cheap enough, my payment all in utility bills is under $2,000 a month. That's the target for a trap house Airbnb. All in under 2,000. I'm talking about your monthly expenses, your coffee, your filters, your toilet paper, all that stuff outside of cleaning. You need to keep that under $2,000 in North Texas. And then you put it on Airbnb, and you're going to bring in roughly 4,000 on Airbnb in the city of Denton. So, of course, if you can get your expenses down lower, you're making more money. One thing that you have to consider if you're doing Airbnb is, who's the cleaning person? How much are you going to charge for your cleaning fee? Is your guest going to think that's absurd, or are they just going to pay it? Some other things that you need to consider on Airbnb: early check-ins. I get $20 for early check-ins. I get $20 for late checkouts. I'll give it to you for $35 if you buy them at the same time. Pet fees at $35 or $50 depending on which house we're in. And these are all just little cash registers. And I got virtual assistants They handle all this, and they get paid a commission to run this. My VAs make about $200 per house, 160 to 200 per month per house. That's about the average. And they do all the checking in. As they handle escalations. If it goes to me, they'll send me a screenshot on my iMessage, so that way we're all connected with the cleaners and stuff. But the biggest challenge you're going to have on your Airbnb is the cleaning. Are you going to hire it out so that way you can continue to grow your business, or are you going to focus all your time and your energy into cleaning houses, which is not a really good money making activity? It's a money saving activity, but it's not a money making activity. So how do you get ahead? You have to hire somebody to clean your units, and if they see the cleaning fee, they're going to kind of expect that cleaning fee. Truth be told, you're paying taxes and your virtual assistant out of this. Hold on, somebody just trying to call me like a client. There we go. So you're going to have taxes and your cleaning taxes and virtual expenses coming out of your cleaning fee. So you're actually losing money on your cleaning fee if you just pay somebody, 100, 150, or 200, depending on how big the house is. But let's think about this. If you're staying in a house and you're paying a $200 cleaning fee, you're going to think twice about staying in that house. Now, if it's a Taj Mahal, huge pool and house and cabin and all this stuff, 200 is probably going to be more reasonable. But the problem is, if it's a $200 cleaning fee and then you got this $6 or $7 or $1,000 or $5,000 stay behind it, it adds up. And now you're pricing your people out of your house. And then what's going to happen is you're going to have to reduce prices, reduce fees, and just cover your mortgage. But to summarize this, in the city of Denton, I have 3 Airbnbs.
No
Denton Chambers is
question.
number 4.
I think, when we encounter these issues,
Illusion. We had a little interruption. Can you hear me? I hear you.
no, yeah, there's a delay. There's a delay.
But what I was trying to say is, if you have 3, 4, 5, 7 Airbnbs in the same community, what you need to do is you actually just need to hire somebody and pay them an hourly wage, and give them some gas stipends and stuff like that. And that's how you get ahead. Because if you're charging $100 cleaning fee, and then you're paying your $100 cleaning fee on all your units, the only person that's really so you need volume, and you just got to start small and keep going. I don't know if your delay's good or not.
I wanna ask you about people who are getting started. They're looking at wholesale. They're looking at fix and flip. They're looking at Airbnb, but they're also bootstrapping, so they might not have access to institutional loan sources. It might be difficult for them to get a hard money loan. Where would you start if you had to start over from scratch right now? Where would you start?
So that's a good question, and I'm going to go ahead and tell everybody that's listening to this that I cheated. I had a grandfather that helped me out. I had a grandfather that believed in me. I had a grandfather that he gave me my first loan on my very first house at 20 years old under one condition, that I put 10,000 down, and I did. So he saw it as, if a 20-year-old is going to come up with 10 grand and put it down, he can finance the other 87. And that's what he did. And I paid him off in 5.5 years. So he believed in me. But that doesn't really answer your question. I went into my first fix and flip in 2016, and he financed it as well, and we just split it. So grandpa, that's great. Grandpa's legendary. He'll always be legendary. He's helps his family. He's a pioneer, but that doesn't answer your question. What I would do to answer your question is you need to find somebody that not only can you trust, but some type of a mentor or a coach or a kind of I want to say father figure in the business, someone that's willing to make sure you don't screw up. And it's hard to find those people. So how do you find those people? You got to find the deal first. So if you can find the deal, you'll find the help. I promise you. You just got to network, and then you'll find and get some contacts and stuff like that. And then you just got to go find the deal. So if you can study deals and you can understand what a deal is, which you can go to the school YouTube or hire a trainer or a coach or something like that. You got to be able to know what a deal is first. And once you have a true legitimate deal, then what you do is you start calling your contacts and seeing what they think of your deal. And if they understand that you're a rookie and they like you and they want to see you be successful, they'll help you. But the problem with a lot of people in our generation, or even the younger generation, as I'm 40 now, is the generation that we have has a problem where if they get told no, that's where the buck stops. Is when they take no for an answer. I don't take no for an answer. Certain things I have to, of course. But when it comes to business, when somebody tells me you can't do that, I just got to go and find somebody else that will help me through it, or I need to go fact check it through Chat GPT or Google or something like that. But the moral of the story is that if you put your mind to it, you'll be fine. A mind is a very, very intelligent thing to have and possess, and if you can control your mind, you're gonna be fine, you know? Control your
And how
thoughts,
do
control
you network with people? How do you find the people? What do you gotta do to find those people?
like, what do you do to network?
Name, number, need.
I mean, I met you on the internet. I mean, I just met you on Facebook, and next thing you know, we're friends, you know? And next thing you know, you're trapping in a small shed just trying to save money to get out of here. And,
Name, number, need.
name, number, need is a very, very, very powerful tool.
It
You need a
is,
loan.
it is.
You need a loan, who's the plug? You need a house, who's the plug? You need this, who's the plug? You need a backup battery in your apartment in Dominican Republic, there's a plug for that. You need a name, number, and need, you know? So the more name, numbers, and needs you got, the further you can go in this life if and only if you start providing for those needs. I learned this a long time ago. I was trying to get a 401k account. Next thing you know, I'm driving 45 minutes across town to pick somebody to take them another hour home because they needed a ride. Name, number, need. They needed a ride home. It took me a lot of time to do that, but you know, I'm feeling the need. And that whole time, hey, the whole time I'm driving this person, hey, I work for broker XYZ. You know, I'd love to have your retirement account. Let me talk to you about rolling over a 401k. So I'm trying to fill somebody else's name, number, and need so that way they can fill my name, number, and need. Name, number, need. I need a loan. Somebody's going to give me that.
That's it. That's it. I think in my life, the thing that I always tell people who are starting out, and you mentioned this a little bit, is the connections that you make are more important than the actual knowledge. The knowledge is important, but I spent so much time trying to get the knowledge in my first year, really, that I could have probably doubled my progression if I would have just been in more rooms. And so ultimately, that's my focus right now. I was one of the people actually speaking on a Zoom call with lots of local people who are interested in joining the brokerage that I'm a part of, EXP, in the Dominican Republic. And I am really still learning the language. But on that call, that's kind of that same thing. It's like you've got to put yourself in the room, even if you feel like you're in a room where you're potentially outgunned, put yourself in the room. Because otherwise, you've got no shot. What's the worst thing that can happen is maybe you say, I actually don't know what that is, or you may show some level of ignorance, but that's, in my mind, still better than the alternative, which is just trying to get it out of a book. You know, ChatGPT is good, but it's not going to call someone who's a homeowner,
Right.
navigate that process, get it under a contract, find an end buyer. It's not gonna, do all of that. So to me, name, number, need. I even have a song on SoundCloud called Name, Number, Need. I should put that in the description.
Curious.
It's all about getting in front of people, finding a way to stay in contact with them, and then taking up space in their mind, like what you do, Ryan, with the canvas portraits, right? That you give everybody. Brilliant marketing, right? Because that's effectively advertising space for, Trap House Ryan, right? In everyone's office. And they love it. They love, and the people are probably saying, where's mine? I mean, that's a brilliant thing. Ryan, we are coming up on time here, though. Thank you for coming on the podcast here today. Where can folks go if maybe they've got a deal that they'd like you to look at, or if they'd like to reach out to you, get in contact with you?
Hashtag I buy trap houses. If that my goal is to let that live rent free in your head for the rest of your life. Hashtag I buy trap houses. I can say my phone number, but you'll forget it. But if you really want to get a hold of me, if you go hashtag I buy trap houses, you'll find my phone number. You'll find my DMs. You'll find my graphic art. You'll find my craziness. So just check out hashtag I buy trap houses. I meet people on the street. How do I get a hold of you? I just tell them hashtag I buy trap houses. You'll find me. It's that easy.
Ryan, thank you so much for coming on the show today, Straight to the Money podcast. Thanks, Ryan.
All right, thank you, buddy.